See if this works. We'll see if it works. We're going live. We're launching into the internet.
I was gonna
I
say,
don't. I don't know if we're up
F it,
yet.
do it live, but I didn't want to say that like
I
in the
don't know if
middle
we're
of
yeah
the.
we're going live there, and we are live. Hello there. What is going on, everyone? It's time for a double critical, and we are. You know what? I screwed up. I've already screwed
Already?
up this quick because I
Woo!
have to change the space background to the double critical background for double criticals, and
Space
boom.
Critic? Oh,
The
okay.
space
Oh,
background, yes. So if you notice in the star field, we've got double critical logos kind of flying all over the
I
place.
see it now. I see it
Yeah.
now.
Okay. But that's okay. Nobody's watching yet. We just started. I've got to share this out, and we're gonna
I
do
wonder
all
if I'm
that
one of the
stuff.
two people.
You might be. We're the two people who are watching right now. Nobody's here. You could say anything you want. Yeah. No.
But don't they?
But
Hello there.
hello there. What's going on, everybody? We're back with another double critical. It's been a while, and
Yeah, for me, for a while, for me.
yeah, it has been a while. Sean is joining the show today. We're going to be talking about Star Wars Legion. There's a lot to talk about. There's points that are just came out.
Happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. I was a little underwhelmed. I was expecting more for some reason. I guess because mainly my Pathfinders generally benefit every points change, and they didn't this time.
Or did they buy proxy? Did other things like did anything
Vigilance
get
went
more
up.
expensive? Vigilance went
Vigilance.
up, but they don't.
I was
need,
using vigilance everywhere.
you were, but the Pathfinders specifically didn't really need it. It was the Rebel
Nah, they
Troopers
don't.
that.
No, that's true. Yeah, the veterans. I loved it with the veterans as a neat little combo with the rebel officer and
Oh,
get two
yeah.
rebel vets. It was have them basically babysit him.
All right. So everybody who's watching, if we get up to 300 viewers today, I'm going to do a bonus Legion related giveaway later in the episode. We'll also probably do one of the 12 Days of Life Day giveaways a little bit later too. So you'll have to watch and stick around for that. So share the video. We have points that that just came out. I keep saying points, and I mean to say rules because part of my mind can't wrap around the fact why Legion needs a new rule set.
I'm kind of with you. I mean, as far as game systems goes, it's still one of my favorites. Like, we play Age of Sigmar. I played 40K, and I played BattleTech now too. So
yeah, I mean, we played
just still
Imperial
do
Assault a little bit. We played
Yeah.
that. We played X-wing once or twice. We've played a lot of Armada together.
a lot of Armada.
A lot of Armada together.
That's how you and me met. So yeah, we played a lot of Armada.
Yeah, and of course Rebellion. We played a lot of. We still play a lot of Rebellion.
Yes, that game has unending value.
It's so good. It's so good. I really wish they would make another one though. But Eric is asking in chat already. He's like, "Are we about to get X-winged?" And so yeah,
it seems like it.
It's gonna be interesting. I don't know. I
remember you talked about it. It's like it's January 14th, 16th.
No, December. It's December.
Oh, it's December.
It's next week. That's why we're doing this so quick. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So there's four separate things.
Like
and
the
there's
12th, 14th,
factions.
19th, and 21st, or something like that.
Shoot! I thought it was okay. Well,
yeah.
cool.
So here's what we know, because by the way, if you guys are watching, there's gonna be a lot of speculation tonight. A lot of speculation.
Way
because
out of the
we don't know.
game.
We don't know what's happening. Dusty says this makes no sense with new rules again already. What's going on? And by the way, everybody, let me know where you guys are watching from, and I want to hear your predictions in the chat as well. So here's what we know: there was just a big rules change. Like Sean said, a lot of people were a little bit whelmed or underwhelmed. It wasn't really that big of a deal. Some things went down just a little bit. Pikes went up a little bit. Vigilance got a big change.
I thought Pikes were going to go up way more than that.
I think it's the first step. I'd hate to just take Pikes and say, oh, they're 20 points more expensive, and now all of a sudden, now they're broken, and now they have to come down. It's easier to go up incrementally, and then to be like, all right, let's give it 6 months, and then do they need to go up more? You don't have to fix it on the first pass. You just want to make it better than it was before without, you don't have to get it perfection right away.
Yeah.
So I also think there was some things that changed with the points update that might be an influencer to this. There's 3 things in particular that I wonder if they have relevance to where the new rules are going. And it's not the Pikes. The first one is vigilance.
Yep.
Although I can understand why it went up, but at the same time, the fact that it went up so much more than pikes went up, when pikes are pretty much the main reason why vigilance, I don't think was broken for Jedi. I don't think it was broken for rebel troopers. You know, it was just nice. It certainly wasn't broken for, you know, for a lot of rebel units that, you know, can use dodges. They don't really get the, you know, as many interactions with dodge tokens as the pikes were getting. So I feel like vigilance may have some new benefit in the new rules that make it, you know, more than like twice as valuable as it already was.
Yeah.
Possibly.
I know Thomas said like some of those ideas you got, Thomas, and it is a very, very close. I'm thinking too.
Oh yeah, you're jumping right ahead to what they're gonna do. Yeah.
Yeah, I got the chat there.
Oh yeah. He thinks clones should get token sharing back, and possibly, I mean, that could be an interaction with vigilance.
Yeah.
There's another card that went up that I think might have something to do with it. Force speed, or burst of speed rather.
I hate the card. I hate when you use it because you freaking run Palpatine in my list and blows everything up.
Yeah, it's worth it on Palpatine. Gosh, I want to do that again. I think I only got to do that once with Palpatine, but it's really fun to be able to do. But yeah, so I wonder if maybe that could be nothing more than maybe they're working on the Ahsoka and Asajj Ventress cards, and they think burst of speed might be a little strong on them, so they wanted to. I think you have to price something. You have to price any given upgrade at a price point where is it most abused, and that's where the price has to be. So that means it might not work. It might not be optimized for a weaker card. But that's kind of how I think they were looking at that.
Yeah. And I know their chat's already bringing up some like Eric McIntyre said, like, might be changing points, how many points and all that. It's definitely something I'm going to bring up later.
Oh, if the game standard goes up to 1,000 points, yeah, that's maybe. And that leads into some of the line of thinking. So I want to just kind of talk about what we know so far, and then we're going to get into speculation in a little bit. But the other thing that went up that's less impactful was the grappling hooks.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Nobody's ever going to take it. Nobody was ever taking it at 1 point. I'm certainly not going to take it at 2 points.
Yeah, which one has scale? It's
Wookiees have scale.
Yeah, doesn't like the ARC troopers get like a upgrade?
Well, they get the jetpacks. Our troopers have the jetpacks, and the thing is, like, I would never take grappling hooks because for 1 more point I can get the thing that gives you scale, and the ascension guns, right?
That's what I'm thinking of. Ascension guns.
Yeah, so like I'll just take that instead. That didn't get changed, right? So I'm like, wait a second, what? Like, so I imagine I have to guess that grappling hooks change has something to do with the new rules that we're getting over the course of the next 2 weeks.
So something we didn't see with the point change. Sorry, I'm twisting everyone, but something we didn't see with the point change is that no cards got changed, and we have seen sometimes with these points upgrades, like, hey guys, this is how this should read now. Like, like no errata. Errata. We didn't see any errata with this, and that is a possibility that they focus on each faction. Like, hey, we're erratating this. Hey, we're erratating whatever.
Oh, so you're thinking instead of rules altogether, it could just be like a heavy errata kind of compilation?
Heavy errata, yes.
There may be some. I feel like if there was going to be any errata, it might be better to hold off on it until the rules come around, yeah.
Or they just do it all together. Like, hey, we're going to focus on rebels, and this is what we're errating, and these are your guys' new rules, kind of thing, like that.
Yeah, I hadn't even really thought about errata, but I wonder if there's any. Let us know, like, is there any cards you really think need some errata right now? Because I'm not sure. I think one of the things that might get errata is maybe some of the things from Blizzard Force, because I know a lot of people were saying that Blizzard Force was running wild. A lot of people are thinking like the quad bikes is kind of out of control, and all this other stuff, and none of that, and none of the points changes impacted like Imperial lists much at all. Yeah. Because I don't even think Empire takes vigilance ever, or virtually ever. Maybe like with Vader, so he can keep his dodge tokens. Or
What's
Sussy says Pikes should lose outmaneuver. Maybe. I mean that's one way to look at it. Another way might to say like, I guess we're gonna get into speculation, right? So,
Yep.
but before we do, I want to finish going on to the things that we know. So we just had this points change. They said there was going to be a new tournament regulation. Will Schick said that. I don't know if he misspoke and meant to say rules reference guide or whatever, or maybe that's in addition to. So maybe it's not only just game rules, but also tournament regulations too. And if so, that could be something that happens. But we're gonna see 4 different articles over the next 2 weeks, like Mondays and Wednesdays, I believe is the dates that they published. And that are going to help prepare us for this new rule set, which is the new rule set is going to fully drop in January.
Oh, maybe that's why I was confused. Okay,
Yeah, the rules. So what we're getting isn't exactly it's not exactly the full rules drop. It's kind of like a
teasers.
They're kind of like, if you're making bread, you've got to knead the bread a little bit before you stick it in the oven. They're kneading us a little bit. But so what we're going to be getting is 4 different articles talking about these rules, and I feel like this does tell us a lot, even though it's not concrete information. It's telling us that this is a significant amount of rules. It's a significant change. And it's a change that they couldn't just be like, hey, when we get a rules reference guide update or a minor rules change or errata, they can just drop that on us. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
But when they do something really big like they did with X-Wing, it required a lot of explanation. X-Wing had multiple streams talking about their new rules. You got some happy puppies over there. That's okay. I've got mine too. She's being good. She's being super quiet right now. But yeah, I just have a feeling that it's going to be a pretty big rules update to have 4 scheduled articles, and
no, I agree. It's a lot to make sense. I'm pretty sure they're going to focus on each faction. The thing also we're thinking of though is that during X-Wing, that was FFG. That was how when they were heading it. How I don't know too much AMG stuff out. They've been doing newswise. Is that how they generally roll these out? Like MCP?
Well, no, that was AMG that did the X-Wing. Well, all right.
Oh,
so,
it is?
hold on. Let's go back.
Oh, but
there's been 2 major changes with X-Wing. So FFG did the 2.0.
Yes, that's
FFG did X-Wing 2.0. What I'm actually referencing the 2.5.
2.5.
Okay, yeah, the AMG's, right, which a lot of people called 3.0, which is technically 2.5, which was a huge change to X-Wing. And what a lot of people are afraid of is that the first article, or basically the first hint we got of some of the new rules changes, was some of the more palatable things, like, oh, we're gonna just change this thing so that we're gonna take away bids. Like, you can't. One of the things they did in X-Wing is they took the ability, like, if you had less than the maximum number of points in your army, you didn't get a bid for first player or blue player or whatever, right? So they did that with X-Wing. And presumably that could be something they might do for Legion. They might say, hey, we want you using all of your points, so you're just going to roll for first player instead of actually bidding. And that might change some people's strategies. And that was kind of how it was perceived with X-Wing. And so everybody's like, well, this is there was a lot of discussion. Is this a big change or a small change or whatever? How much this has changed? Because it does change some of the strategy.
Oh, yeah.
But I think if they did that with Legion, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But they rolled out the smaller changes first, and then on the very, very last day, when they dropped the new rules, there were some things they hadn't talked about, and there were like the really big things, like, oh, by the way, upgrades aren't included in the point cost, or like upgrades don't have points anymore. And it was like this massive change to list building, where it was basically you had 20 points for a ship. And but upgrades were free, kind of. But you could only put so many upgrades on any given ship, and each ship told you how many points of upgrades were allowed to go onto that. But those upgrades didn't count against your list, so you had to put the most amount of upgrades possible if you wanted to be competitive. So which meant there was no more running like a naked X-Wing. You had to max it out. And that kind of, I think that made building lists a lot more complicated, and it was all really weird.
Yeah, I hope we don't get X-Wing, because that is a lot with Legion stuff that doesn't translate well to tabletop gaming. Because it's tough. I mean, it's actually tabletop. I mean, like miniature skirmish games. Like
Well, people really
that
do
are
like to build out their lists, but then again, I mean, if I compare it to like Age of Sigmar, for example, or Warhammer or whatever, you don't. There's a little bit of defining, like if you're running, like this Space Marine unit or whatever, like you can see like, oh, I'm running them with like this gun or that gun, but you're not
yeah.
putting like 42, or you're not choosing from a list of like 100 different upgrades. Well, maybe you are in 40K. I don't know.
40K a little more. Age of
Yeah.
Sigmar a little.
It's a little bit less,
more
right? Like
over. Yeah,
when I'm
yeah.
building a list in Age of Sigmar, I pretty much just say, hey, I'm running, these decimators, and that's it. And I can choose to maybe like one optional configuration or maybe two optional configurations. But yeah, so I don't know, but I feel like so they changed list building massively with X-Wing, and I wonder if they're going to do that with this game. And it actually goes into like one of my like we've got fears and I've got hopes for this game.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good time to kind of jump into that because I think 4 articles means it's quite significant.
Oh yeah.
And I think one of my big fears that like a lot of people have said already is like that they're going to kind of give this the X-Wing treatment where it doesn't feel like the same game.
Yeah, that's
That will obviously upset a lot of people, and so I think
yeah.
it's one of the things I'm concerned about. And I don't know if it's a complete deal breaker because if it doesn't feel like the same game, that doesn't necessarily mean it's automatically bad. But I think a lot of people will view that big of a change as something automatically bad.
It's the basic bones of Legion. I think are hard to change, like measurement tools, range tools, things like that. Like that to me, like the basic bones of it that they can't change. So I think we'll still get the same feel. It just depends on how far they go with the different rule sets. Like I would definitely not like if like I love Age of Sigmar, but I definitely don't want to go where one guy activates your whole list and the next guy activates his whole list. I don't want to do that.
Right.
I hope they don't do that.
Yeah, that would be a massive rules change if they kind of borrowed that 40K. Like I'm doing everything and you're doing everything, and that would and that would of course the way that some of the units are built, that would require probably if there was a massive change like that, it would require tons of errata because you might have to change, more than half the units in the game to. That like, oh, do I get to activate the Emperor and Darth Vader back to back? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, like a lot of command cards are built around synchronous activations. Like Leia has one. Like, hey, she activates, then another unit activates. Hey, after Leia activates, Chewie gets to shoot his gun. Like it's
right. And that's one of the things that did happen with X-Wing is when they made big changes. Like they did a thing where you couldn't look at somebody's speed dial or their maneuver dial before it was revealed anymore. But there were so many cards in the game that let you do that. They had to go in and either ban all of them or errata all of them, which brings me into my next fear. What if they come up with like a ban list, and now all of a sudden some of my favorite units I'm no longer allowed to use? That could be scary.
It's such a rough concept because it's also very anti-business in a way. Like you're telling your person who bought something you can't play with the toy. This is my plastic man. I want to play with the plastic man.
Well, technically, I mean. I agree with you 100%. I think their view is, well, a ban list is only for tournament play or for competitive play.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
Okay, while that may be true, when you and I play, it's not like we're homebrewing our own stuff. We follow the tournament rules because maybe we're going to go play in a tournament someday and we want to practice this list or whatever. So our even casual play follows the tournament rule for a lot of people. Maybe not everybody. I know a lot of people that just play on their kitchen tables and then they do whatever they want. I mean, hell, I could have Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader in the same list if I really wanted to, but that wouldn't be according to the tournament rules. Wouldn't be according to any rules, really. That'd be Crabbok rules. That'd be double critical rules right there.
Oh, jeez.
But yes, so I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I think my brain kind of goes. I actually kind of hope for a point upgrade. To me, one of the things I always love. I mean, this is me though. I love seeing those big battles. I like seeing more squads out there, and if they're trying to differentiate themselves from other games, I think the point upgrade would work well. Especially
so a point upgrade. You're talking about like taking the game. Legion is an 800 point game. You're talking about changing the standard point limit.
Like it's changing standard point limit. I don't know what would be I'm not a game designer, so I couldn't tell you what a good point limit would be. 1,000 sounds about right, but when I thought about that in Armada, you brought up a lot of good points. A lot of the cards and ships are designed around the point cost they already have.
Yeah, it's true, and so that
we didn't have Oh no, go
That
ahead.
that would go into like a massive errata, and I think if they were going to do that, we might have seen a more widespread point update than we did
Yeah,
because
that's
we got a very smallish point, points change.
yeah. Again, I was whelmed. Like it would be unless they're like, hey guys, that was just sneak peek. Here's the real
Yeah.
point update.
James said it's starting to feel like GW game with changes all the time. But we don't really know what changes are coming. Now, somebody earlier,
At least we're not having to pay for them.
that's true. Yeah, you don't have to buy the new rule book. That is a good thing. Somebody said earlier that maybe they were doing something like just a new game mode. So maybe there's and I think that's worth something considering when we get to maybe the hopes is that maybe it's just a whole new game mode. But I'm still on my fears right now. My fears is one of my fears is that the new rule. This is a very very simple one because we've been playing Legion for so long that the new rules will be so in depth that they're not easy to remember. That's a fear because that was one of my problems with X-Wing, and it's one of the reasons I play very little X-Wing now is because I've got 3 different sets of rules floating around in my head right now. I've got 1.0, which I played for a long time, 2.0, which I never even fully learned, and then it's 2.5. And so I'm like, wait, all right, target lock. Wait, what does this upgrade do? Or all right, can I measure now? Can I not measure now? So I just have to stop and just ask my opponent, like, tell me what to do. I don't, it's
Play my list for me.
It happens more often than I would like when I'm playing X-Wing, where I'm just, that I just get confused and so especially when you've been playing one rule set for a long time. So I hope their rules are more intuitive and they make sense and they're easy to remember.
Yeah, I know. Chad's brought up simplifying the game to make it more accessible to new players. One of the things that Legion actually does decently well is that the keywords are clearly defined, and a lot of times, it's actually pretty accessible to new people. To me, like I can teach Legion a lot better than I can teach Age of Sigmar. Before, like Legion, I can introduce almost all the concepts right off the bat in Legion, and it kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
Age of Sigmar, I go when we taught you, like we didn't have objectives, we just went.
We still haven't used terrain.
Terrain rules.
In Age of Sigmar,
and that's like
right?
my Seraphon guys actually use terrain rules a lot in their stuff.
So maybe you would actually win a game or two if we did that. No, I think. I'm just too good at it. That's the real truth. Is I'm just too good. No, but no, for real. I think Legion does have a more user friendly, a more welcoming rule set, and I think maybe that's one of the things they might do is just try to. I expect Shatterpoint to be the easier game, the more accessible game.
MCP was pretty easy. That wasn't something you taught me. Like it clicked pretty quick.
Yeah, MCP it's rather intuitive. It's not a perfect rule set. Like there are some things I'm not super crazy about with MCP, especially like some of the terrain rules. But they still work. They're clean. Yeah. They work. They're just like, oh, I can't see you, but according to the rules, I can. Or vice versa, or I can clearly see your character. I'm like, no, you have no line of sight on him, but he can see you.
Yeah.
But so it's like sometimes there are things like that can happen that kind of seem like they're counterintuitive, but for the most part, MCP's got a pretty clean and easy to teach rule set, and I feel like Shatterpoint will probably also have a pretty clean and easy to teach rule set. So I don't know if they'll make Legion too much easier. They might actually make it more complicated to kind of further differentiate it from Shatterpoint.
Trying to separate their IPs in a sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be.
Some of my fears is maybe they'll double back down and try. I say this in a negative way, like get rid of some of FFG's legacy, like FFG introduces silhouettes. That was it was an interesting concept because we had a lot of issues where Luke Skywalker's lightsaber is in the air.
Yeah.
Luke was like, fire everything you got on that man. And so if they're like, hey, no, don't worry about silhouettes nowhere. It's back to true line of sight. And all of a sudden those Wookiees,
yeah.
So Wookiees are dying again. Luke Skywalker's dying,
that would be really problematic, I think, if they reverted the silhouette rule, because not only would that change, that would make like R2D2 really hard to hit, for example. But also what that would do is that would really jeopardize everybody who took FFG's word and went and modded their units and said, all right, my dudes on jetpacks are actually going to be on the higher flight stand because I really want them soaring into the skyline,
Yeah. maybe that's our saving grace is it would be very hard to go back on that because of those flight stands. So maybe that's a little buffer. I didn't even think about that. Maybe it's a buffer zone where they can't change that rule.
Yeah, that would feel like a bait and switch. I feel like so they'd probably have to do something like that. And I don't know because again they want people to be able to modify this stuff and customize it. But then if you're then building for advantage by doing that, then that hurts a lot of people. And
my guy's behind a fence. It's automatically light cover.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to put part of a barricade on the base, so I always get heavy cover because he's modded to have a barricade on his base.
M106 is it's I kind of agree in some ways because it's rough to keep up with every single errata. Luckily, I mean, I will say the Living Rules reference guide is nice for I can just go back, flip through.
So for everybody watching, he says he's getting to the point where he'd rather they release army books or do a PDFs for each faction. A lot of cards are no longer accurate, so it seems the advantage has been lost.
I kind of agree. Like a PDF of hey, these are your cards.
Well, I would love to see card packs come out periodically. I don't even use cards anymore. I just print out my list. I don't use cards. I mean, I use cards for the command hand, but even a lot of those have changed. So it's problematic, and I mean, I really don't like having because what good are cards? You can't even reference them. Like I like the cards for GW's cards because at least those are for the most part accurate.
Oh, especially yeah.
But I mean, I hope they continue to have points on the cards, even if the points are not accurate. I still like having everything there because I knew that was accurate at one point. Yeah. Let me see. I think that's most of my fears. Oh, I said, what if they go to quick builds?
No.
That would be
so mad.
That would upset a lot of people. And I
didn't even know that about X-Wing, about the whole upgrade point, 0, but you have to meet this limit.
Well, quick builds and the X-Wing thing are two kind of different things. So X-Wing said, all right, instead of 200 points, your list is now 20 points. So this TIE fighter, he costs 3 points, or he costs 4 points, or whatever. And then you've got 7 loadout points. And then so the loadout points are these are the upgrades. You can use 7 points worth of upgrades on this guy. Those 7 points don't count against your list. There's no reason not to use every single point of loadout points, but that means you kind of have to max everybody out. and they're not. Your dog's not happy about that.
She's getting teased.
She's getting teased. Oh my goodness. But yeah. So that would be like them saying, okay, pikes are now, 55 points. But you don't have to pay for their upgrades. So now you kind of have to max everything out. And that
now everyone gets out. And now everyone gets that special card for that maneuver. They take it away.
Now everybody's putting every single card, everything they can on every single unit that can take it. And that's problematic, And what's going on, everybody that is just joining? We're kind of just we started off talking about all the stuff that we do know. We know there are new rules coming for Star Wars Legion, and it's going to be significant because there is going to be 4 different articles this month talking about them. And so we know it's going to be a big rules update if 4 different articles are coming out. I also want to think that AMG is kind of smart by doing articles instead of live streams because there's always going to be pushback for these changes, even if they're good changes. And,
true.
And with some of the X-Wing live streams, the fans and people on the internet can be very toxic. And I think if it's just an article, then people don't have that soapbox to scream at AMG, and they have time to kind of process it and think about it and then cool off. And then, well, you hope, and then kind of talk about it later on. But yeah, so I just have a feeling that these are going to be really big changes. And I think, honestly, if it were live streams, I think then there's going to be quite a bit of kind of craziness just because that's why they're going with this instead of live streams. I don't know.
That is smart. It's as much as I don't agree with some of the same stuff they've done. They don't deserve to be dragged through the mud for it. They're trying to develop a game too as they
Yeah.
been taking things on. So there's going to be some growing pains, unfortunately.
AMG, don't forget, like AMG didn't go to Asmodee saying, "Hey, please give us Legion and Armada and X-Wing," right? Like it's not.
They were working on a Star Wars game on
They
themselves.
were
like,
already working on a
that.
Star Wars game. Now we know that, right?
Yeah.
So like they don't deserve any kind of, they don't deserve the level of hate that some people give them. You can definitely give them criticisms, like all the misprints and stuff. Like, yeah, they got to own the criticisms for all of that. And there's some certain things that you can be fair with people, but yeah, you don't. A lot of folks just get really nasty in those live streams and in the live chat, and there's really no good that can come of that. It's not like anybody you're walking. Imagine you're walking down the street and somebody flips you off, and you're like, I guess I'm really a jerk today.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't work like that. The world doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, so all right, I guess that's most of my fears. Like, what if
do you have hopes, Tim?
I've got a lot of hopes. I got some really good hopes, and this is the best part of the video. Because I think this could be an exciting time for Legion. Do you remember when we first played Legion? We were playtesting.
Oh God, yeah.
And one of the rules that I got wrong, that we were coming to find out, like talking to Alex Davey and Luke Eddy, I'm like, hey, so in our battle report, it was really cool. I remember I took Luke Skywalker and I force pushed this dude right off a cliff and he fell down. I don't know how much damage he was supposed to take when I pushed him down. And they're like, you can't force push somebody off a cliff. I'm like, why the hell not? That's so great. Isn't that the whole point of force push? And they're like, no, it's a speed 1 move, and off a cliff would be a clamber, and you can't do a clamber as a speed 1 move. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yep.
I feel like that could be a thing. That, like, if they're changing rules, like what if there's more intuitive things? Like what if that's like speed 1 move and clamber? Like what if there's some overlap there and it does allow you to do some of the cooler things that you can't do now? That
goes with their design of MCP. Like they have a lot of cool interactions with terrain. That's one thing I really enjoyed about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I could definitely see that they would have to change Vader's 1 pit. They came up with the operative, because that was the whole point. It's like you can move people now. I was like, his card broke the rule that he became the exception.
Exactly, which takes me into my next one. That's a great segue.
Okay, there we go.
All right, what if they use this this big rules update as an opportunity to define terrain differently? And what I mean by that is, like, Legion has a lot of ambiguity with terrain, and so if you and I are getting to a table, because we had to think about what rules actually needed to be changed. Like, because I didn't think many did, but there's a few things, and people have brought up clones. I know that you're going to talk about that in a minute. But I thought to myself that here's a rule that actually maybe could be clarified, or there's some improvement that could happen, and it's with terrain. Granted, at a table, it's up to you and me. Like I face off against you at a tournament. We have to decide what does what. Sometimes we don't.
What's light cover? Yeah.
Sometimes we don't fully agree. And then that also prolongs the game, because on the right table, we might be sitting there talking for like a good 10 minutes about what does what. Is this part of or what if this piece of terrain has 2 different parts? And
what do you count as the objective? Is it the whole piece? Is it the section?
Exactly. Yeah. Is this going to be area terrain or not, and all this other stuff?
Oh yeah. I remember one of my first tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
Like they brought up, oh hey, this is a cylinder and you can't see past it. I'm like, but it's grass. I can see. Like, my brain couldn't go. Like I can see past it. It's see through. Like I don't know, but you treat it as this because it is a area terrain of like you can't see through. It's like, oh, that makes sense. I don't like it, but it makes sense. And we still played it as that. Hey, you can't see through this cylinder, and that's okay. Like okay, that it makes sense, but it's like it was a different concept for me.
Sure, and this maybe they'll more clearly define different terrain types, and if they use MCP style rules for terrain, it could be really interesting. So, like MCP, like every terrain has a number, like 1 through 5. If it's a size 5 terrain, it's like a big building. If it's a size 4, it's still something big, like maybe a semi truck. Size 3, it's like a newsstand or a big car. Size 2, and then a lot of things. And size 1 is like a trash can or a fire extinguisher on the ground or something small.
Street lamp.
Yeah, a lot of the smaller stuff is size 1, medium stuff 2, and then 3 and bigger are like the big things. And there's a lot of things that reference those numbers specifically. And it brings me back to one of my only feels bad moments in well, maybe not one of my only feels. Yoda came with that card that lets you throw barricades. You can move barricades. And it's a cool, and I remember when when we were playtesting, asking for something to be able to throw terrain at people all the time.
Yeah, engineer to build terrain. Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember that.
or engineer. That's also cool too. But I always wanted to be able to throw, force throw objects at people. Like it's a thing you see happen all the time, and I'm almost certain that Shatterpoint will do that in some way, shape, or form. But you can't really do that in Legion. And then they came out with this card, and it's great because now I can move barricades around. That's cool. Except nobody uses barricades anymore. That would have been a great card to come in the launch box because everybody was using barricades when the game was brand new. Nobody uses those anymore. But a lot of people have their own custom barricades. But according to the rules, if it's not an FFG barricade, it's not a barricade. And so you can treat it as a piece that's basically, so you can't just start like moving terrain and throwing things around and stuff like that. And it got me annoyed because, like, all right, well, this downed tree trunk is the same size as a barricade. Why can't I also do that? And like, no, the force doesn't work on wood. It only works on barricades that have the FFG logo on them. So if they were to more clearly define that and maybe change certain cards to reference, like, hey, and all of a sudden now you can, and there might be some new cards that come up with this. There may be like kind of a force.
They do an upgrade pack kind of thing.
Yeah. There may be like, this is a standard card. Every Jedi can or every Force user can put to be able to move, size 1 pieces of terrain. And so instead of it being barricade, maybe it's just size 1 terrain you can now move with this. Or maybe that upgrade lets you move a size 2 piece of terrain,
That, it could be cool, but also that now then the discussion is like, hey, is that a size 1 or is that a size 2? I think it's a size 2. That could add a little more to it as well.
Right, but a TO can do that at the beginning of the game. Like when they're setting up their tables, a TO can be like, these are 1s, these are 2s. I've played MCP where like they bring little discs or whatever that say 1, 2, or 3 and actually mark pieces of terrain. And most of the MCP terrain, most of the Marvel Crisis Protocol terrain, all of it that's put out by AMG. Has a little number on the bottom. So if you ever have a question, you just look underneath it and it'll tell you, like the small cars are all size 2 and they have a little 2 underneath them. So you take out all of the guesswork there. And I think that makes the terrain sizing rules very, very clean, even if it leads to like, but I can see past this car because it's curved this way. Yes, but because it's size 2, you can't. It's a mixed bag, but I think it does allow for more cool thematic things to happen, like being able to throw a car at somebody.
Yeah. Speeder bike, because as far as speeder bike.
Throw a speeder bike. I mean, you can have cars. I think you can have, just the regular speeders, like in Solo.
Yeah.
The street chase, right? Yeah. So, so I thought would be really fun. So let's talk about, you were talking about clone troopers before we got started, and I saw some people in there, like maybe they're, what do you think they might do with clones?
With clones, I think they're going to go back to the sharing rule again, but they're going to limit to again standbys. They're still probably not going to get standbys, but they might go back to their original rules.
So or maybe unlimited sharing of green tokens other than standby. That was like okay, yeah. I think that seems reasonable, especially with vigilance going up. That could be one of the reasons why vigilance went up.
Yeah, because now clothes can still take it, but then they still take spend it and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I think that would go a long way towards making Rex a little more viable again. I think I think Rex has been difficult to use. They nerfed him a lot at the same time that they nerfed clones, and just him having getting a free aim when he moves. Like that used to be one of the great things. Hey, he's only range 2. He can't shoot that long, but he can support the whole unit by just moving with them, and now he has aims for everybody else.
It took away a lot of utility that the clones used to have, and it's kind of they're not built to be independent operators, but you had to run them as independent operators because you couldn't do as much sharing.
Yes. Yeah. No, I think that's an option. Do you think that they'll if they're doing that with clones, do you think it'll be just a clone thing, or do you think they'll do stuff for other unit types, like maybe droids or something else?
I think it's one. It could be an interesting concept where they really dive into that the creature type or troop type and all that stuff, where they actually define specific rules for, hey, if a creature type does this, if a droid trooper does this, they'll be more to it, because that gives them some cool stuff they can do with Wookiee trooper. You can do Wookiee troop, you can do rebel troop.
Well, they did that a while back, right? They put Wookiee troopers in the rules reference guide, and
they didn't do much with it though, right?
Not much. I think, and we're leading into battle forces, because I think battle forces could get some tweaks to go along with this. There may be new battle forces that are also part of it. But I really think we need Wookiee battle forces. The Wookiee battle force would be great.
So I think what they should have done, the battle force thing to me is more like a start collecting box you would see for other games. Like, hey, this is what you buy to get started. But they should kind of do like the PDF rule or the PDF thing we're talking about. Hey, here's your battle force box, and here's a PDF of like, hey, this is what your special units, this is what the units get special. So it's not just it's just, hey, this is just for Radanas Flyers 5 battle force. It's, hey, Wookiee troop types, or like, hey, if you have 3 Wookiees, that counts as a Wookiee army. You get this special rule kind of thing. More of a sub faction, less than a battle force. I think that would be healthier.
Maybe. I wonder if they'd let you. I don't know, like we also play Age of Sigmar and other games, and you can take like allied units, and I don't think they'll quite do that because I feel like that's what the mercs kind of are, But it'd be nice if like you could take certain battle forces. Like I feel like Wookiees have so few, like you'd have to run lots of Wookiees. You'd have to run Radanasps and Chewbacca and or the generic Wookiee leader, and that's it. That's like all you have that are Wookiees. And
so like a primary, like, hey, this is how many you have to have. They might, in these rules, if they're going to change rules, they might mess with the force organization. Like, hey, if you are taking this, you can have your special forces count as core. Or hey,
that would be just the battle force rules. I mean, because the battle force documents they have, you can have. They might just say, you don't have to bring any core, but you can have up to like 6 special forces or something like that.
You're right, they do that. Yeah.
They could easily do that for a Wookiee battle force, but I feel like they need to make some allowances for non-Wookiee characters. Like I think Yoda should potentially be able to go in there because he was there. I think you should be able to take Han Solo in a Wookiee battle force. Because that would allow you to take the rebel version of Chewbacca and still have some synergy, or as opposed to taking the clone version of Chewbacca. So you'd have a little more, but I feel like it's probably not quite enough. Maybe when the Ewoks come out, there's supposed to be a Chewbacca in an ATST, and I'm like, would that work, or would you be able to just take Wookiees and they say Wookiees have stolen one vehicle from another faction and then just take one vehicle into the Wookiees, or maybe it has to be a specific one. But I mean, since they've fought everybody, like I feel like you could give Wookiees this one vehicle of any type and just say they call it it's that Wookiee vehicle. Ingenuity, right? That mechanical kind of commandeering. That could work. I think that would do enough to give them a decent battle force.
Yeah. So I mean, and in that sense of like, do we stick in there? Are they still considered Republic and all that kind of stuff? Or
that's a tough one because they could just be a full merc battle force in that case. Like they could be a completely. So they've said like the Ewoks were going to be a rebel battle force, but I'm like, all right, well maybe I don't know.
They ate everybody.
They might just come out with a PDF of like all new Wookiee cards, and you can just use your existing Wookiees in like different ways too.
I think that. The more we talk about, the more that seems like the best way to do it. So we'll see. This
PDFs would work. Another thing that I think is going that way is Ewoks too. If you're doing the clone thing and you're going to do a big rules update, at least if one of the 4 days, if each of these 4 days they're talking about a different aspect of the rules changes, if one of those aspects is creature types or trooper types, I feel like that helps pave the way for Ewoks. And we know Ewoks are coming, so I feel like that's less of a speculation and more of a hypothesis. Because we know, we've got a lot of Wookiees out there they haven't done much with. There's some command cards that can only be issued to Wookiees. And they kind of felt like the first Battle Force, but they were never really made a Battle Force.
Yeah.
But Ewoks are definitely coming, and I feel like I'm a little underwhelmed with the idea of Ewoks, although we haven't seen any of their unit cards yet.
I'm kind of with you though. Like they're cool. Love Ewoks. It's neat to have my little cannibalistic bears that kill troopers.
They're
but like,
neat. Yeah, they're neat.
Yeah, that's not where I would have gone more like Republic Commandos. Like,
and I think there's a lot of room for that to still happen. But I think the Ewok. The fact that Ewoks are coming and
marketable.
They've said that they'll be doing like one of the guys looks like a trapper, or they'll be using traps. I feel like traps could interact with terrain in a way that kind of justifies them redefining terrain. Like, hey, you can you can throw a size 3 terrain at a vehicle or bigger, a size 3 or 4 or something like that. You know, and I think you'd have a hard time having Wookiee or Ewoks use terrain in the game the way it is now because there's too much of it is open to interpretation.
You know what? Cad Bane has his little tokens where, like, hey, you flip it over and it does something, right? But there's a blank. There's a little, like,
there's a bluffing game there.
A bluffing, yes. Mm-hmm. That'd be really cool to have, like, if there's a trapper, like, hey, you put 5 trap tokens on a piece of terrain, you flip it over. Oh, hey, snare trap. Your guy falls in. You know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you're not changing any of the terrain rules, that's definitely a way that you could do Ewoks is have some of that bluffing mechanic out there. And that's a pretty cool idea, actually. And that might be fun. That might be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it's always tough is that they always need to make the game fun and interesting. And I know there's a kind of like, oh, well, they have a head start because they didn't have to design it. Mm-hmm. The problem is when you don't design it, sometimes you don't know what you're breaking by adding new stuff.
Do you one of my hopes is that they and I think this is not a hope for everybody, but I know that like when I play Legion with you, our games are very different than when I go to a tournament and get completely stomped by the meta. And so it was one of my observations, and it's happened more recently since pikes have been more of a thing, is that pikes will, and it's not just pikes. The Imperial gun line can kind of do this too, is where people kind of take a very defensive position. And almost every tournament I've ever been to I've seen this at some point where people they turtle in, they get behind heavy cover and have dodges or bodyguard or something like that, and then they just fire at you, safety aim and shoot or dodge and shoot until the last round. Now let's rush for the objective. So there's no risk. It's like they minimize the risk and in a risk versus reward situation. Yeah. And range 4 weapons kind of reign supreme, and then of course they laugh at us when they release fleet troopers and snow troopers and the Black Sun, who I was so excited to play, that just never got close enough to shoot anybody.
And yours are very well painted too.
Thank you. That's why I wanted to run. I mean, and it was the same thing that kind of happened with the ion gun, which was one of the things that wasn't affected. I wonder if somehow, and I have a hard time trying to speculate specifically, but I wonder if somehow there will be a rule to encourage more close range combat and less kind of sniping, less turtling behavior.
Yeah, so that Age of Sigmar, one of the people I listen to is a Warhammer Weekly, and they talk about like alpha bunkering, alpha strikes, things like that. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that stops an alpha Cali, where you have basically you have your area, this is mine, I shoot and all that stuff, is you have like certain factors where what's the one? The night condition card where you can't shoot beyond range 3, you can't shoot beyond range 4, things like that.
Yeah,
that is a great card for that, but you can't always pull that out, obviously.
Right, and then now since they've changed the rules, which by the way, great change, and that was one of the first things I think that happened at AMG. Switching to the really 4 battle card, like the 4x3 layout, and it was brilliant, and that gives me hope. That they've made some really good quality of life changes for Legion so far.
So let me throw this at you: ranges. Okay. If this might take a little bit of work because certain weapons obviously can be better at ranges, but if you shoot at range 4, maybe you shoot less dice because it's a longer range. Like ranges will affect how many dice you get. You're ineffective at this range. So you shoot one less dice.
Or maybe beyond range 2, every additional range band, the defender gains 1 extra defense die.
Maybe that could actually. I like that better. You know what? I like that better.
Oh man! All right, we got it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, sign us up. Or something like that, right? I use that because that's kind of how X-Wing did it, right? You get your long range. If you're firing at range 3, you get an extra die. If it's obstructed, you get an extra die. But I wonder if they'll do something like that to kind of encourage, because I feel like fleet troopers were DOA. They looked cool. Yeah. They were never really viable.
Hey. Whoa. Those hats are dumb. All right, man.
What?
I hate those hats.
Oh,
I hate
really?
Fleet hats so much. I'm probably the minority in this, but I hate their stupid hats. But I like the concept of fleet.
Well, to me, they were the only. I think they looked cool because to me they were the most canon.
They're very iconic. Absolutely.
The most canon appearance of rebel core unit.
Yes.
You know,
Rebel Troopers
to
so
me,
generic, but
the rebel troopers look like special forces to me. They look like
Yeah.
commandos, and so like when the commandos came out, I'm like, they look like the rebel troopers. It looks like it's just another, you know, they look like they have to go together, and you know.
Yeah.
So,
No, I agree.
Yeah, so I really liked the look of the fleet troopers. I really liked the look of the Black Sun, and the B2 super battle droids for the Separatists also look really cool.
Yep.
Gosh,
And it's,
I mean, and I also really like snowtroopers. You know, I love snowtrooper.
yeah, no, I know. Han Solo, another one. Like range 2 is that it's that weird. Like for some reason, things that are melee or range 1 are okay because you already have the plan for it. But that range 2 band is just like that really weird weak spot, and they could definitely add something to make that either better. Like you're talking about, if they're going to go with the rules changes and they make terrain it like. Going where like, hey, if you have the terrain and if it's any line goes through this, it's line of sight's blocked. That could make them better because they're not going to get hit at range as often.
Well, also standby is default range 2 only, and since nobody really runs range 2 units, like standby is like a worthless command most of the time. The only time people run standby typically is if they have Sentinel, and that's even only once in a while, but it's usually if you've got Padme Amidala hiding, or maybe Anakin. Yoda hiding, or something like that, or Anakin Skywalker when he guys his exemplar card. So like but like, all right, if you're not Gar and you're not running one of these gimmicks, you know, to do standby, who actually takes a standby? It's very rare. I've done it with Death Troopers a couple of times, but you're usually shot before you can actually do it, you know.
How many times I've like, man, I got the perfect standby, and you go, oh, I back up and shoot you. I'm like, that makes sense. It makes me mad, but it makes sense.
I feel like standby is something that could possibly use a sweeping, or you know, maybe just another closer look. And so if they have some kind of changes to standby to make it more viable for most other units that don't get some kind of special interaction with it, I think that would be really cool. Death Troopers had their DLT come down in points just a little bit, I believe, also. So
it's so odd to me. Just like,
well, I mean, he was crazy expensive, but also he was. I think Death Troopers were good when they first came out, but maybe like because you know Iden Versio and ISF became really popular, I feel like people have been taking Death Troopers a little bit less. And
it's sad because they are so cool looking. And Rogue One's one of my favorite movies.
Oh yeah, I mean, I still love to take Death Troopers, but like it's so hard to really make their standbys really work.
Yep.
You know? Yeah.
They definitely suffer from like, you know, Pierce and things like that, which that's how, but there should be somewhat hard counters to things that kind of, you're playing that rock, paper, scissors game in a certain way, and being able to try to break that mold is what makes the game better. Like, oh, I know I'm weak to this, but I have this other unit to do that counter punch.
I also wonder if they're going to do anything all new, like a whole new token type or something like that. Like a whole new. What if they did something sweeping? Like here's a whole new action. You can take a.
That may be that.
Like you can take a Whamageddon action, and that gives you this new Whamageddon token, and it's.
Is that from Pogs?
No. I was just thinking. We were talking the other night. We had our company Christmas party, and there's a game called Whamageddon where if you hear Last Christmas, you lose. And if you don't hear it, it's a song by Wham about last Christmas I gave you my heart, the very next day you gave it away.
That's Mariah Carey.
No, that's a totally different song, and everybody loses that. We all heard that on I think on Halloween they played that. Yeah. But anyway, but my point is I just picked a random word out of nowhere. But my point is like, what if they were to bring a whole new token type and. Like
they would have to, that would be also cause for printing, you know, like that's like they're not gonna I don't know if they're gonna print all that cardboard out. So that I don't see having as much, maybe a new action, but like what action is needed? Like that's probably thing where like the basic rules are still good. Like and most the bones of the game are still good. Like what is changing?
If I were doing it, I mean you could come up with a token that maybe persists through turns. Like maybe you get a token that gives you steady. You know, or charge, or a token that will carry on and you like kind of like represents you kind of preparing for next turn's big attack. Maybe it takes 2 actions or whatever. Now, I mean, I'm really spitballing here, and I'm getting pretty far out there, but like that could be a thing. Like, all right, like maybe that's a thing for a range 2 unit to make them better. It's like, okay, Black Sun guys, we're not going to do anything this turn. We're just going to rest, almost like a recharge or recover action. where we're just gonna plan for next turn, like a plan action, and then we get this token, and it goes away at the end of our next activation, and that lets us gain relentless or something like that. So now we can move twice, and then do something.
Okay.
That's it. That's an idea. I don't know, but I feel like you don't necessarily need a whole new token type for that. That sounds like something that maybe a command card might do.
Adding new command cards would be cool too. But that's not really a rules change. I think we have straight a little bit. Like, what would it be a rules change?
So I do have some. Like, I don't want to go for too long, but because we can probably speculate all night long.
Yeah,
but
you're good at that.
I have some kind of thoughts to kind of steer the conversation kind of towards its closing point on like what I think things that are actually like I talked about hopes and fears, and we've also talked about the facts, but I want to talk about I think things that seem likely that are maybe a little bit less outrageous. Before I do that, I got a little admin stuff. So you guys know, all you guys watching right here, we know we're doing that big lightsaber giveaway. We're also doing 12 Days of Life Day. We have a winner to announce. Today's winner is going to be Ashley Keys. Congratulations, Ashley. You're winning a Crabbok token, lightsaber nunchuck token. It's going to have the C on the front, the 5 on the back. You can use this to count damage, or you can mark a commander.
Surprisingly more useful than you would think.
They are pretty cool, so congratulations, Ashley. Just shoot me an email at mailcrabbok at gmail.com. We'll get that out to you. And also be sure to check out Luxury Playstyle, if I could actually put it up here. They're great stocking stuffers. Use code CrabbokVIP to save 15%. And
the fact that those can flip from like 2 to 1 is just that's watching you use them. That's the coolest part. Like, it's so annoying to I have to grab out more tokens and all that stuff.
Same thing with the suppression tokens. They're super cool. So little admin stuff there, but yeah. So also, if you guys watching, side I'm gonna hype up tomorrow's video. We're doing unboxing of Dungeons and Dragons Onslaught tomorrow that WizKids sent over, and I'm really excited about that one.
Luke Eddy is helping out with that?
No,
is that the thing?
Alex Davey. Alex Davey, I'm sorry. He's the director of miniatures for WizKids right now. And actually, the funny thing is, there were a couple of other former FFG folks. John Schaefer is on the credits involved in that, and so is Michael Gurnis, who worked on Armada. He was also involved in some of the editing and stuff, and you'll probably notice a couple of folks. Some of our friends over at the 5th Trooper were on the playtesters list. Jay and Evan were listed on there. So was Brendan Franz. So lots of Legion folks kind of put some love into helping that game get tested out and doing well. So I'm really excited, and I got to play it at Gen Con, and I love it. And
we still haven't played. You keep promising
we're playing. We're playing the next time we hang out, dude. We're gonna do it. They sent me some stuff. They sent me the core set. They also sent me a couple of faction packs. I haven't even opened those up yet, so we're gonna dig into that. What is a double critical? Great.
That's actually more story to that nowadays.
So the double critical is Sean and I were doing a podcast for a little while, and it kind of first turned into like occasional live stream, where we speculate. You see the double criticals kind of flying around in space behind us. The idea is we're just trying to come up with here, what are some other things Legion could do? What are things that might happen that could happen? What if a unit before Darth Maul came out? One of my ideas was, what if Darth Maul had Surge to double critical? Instead of just surge to crit. When he had a surge, it counted as 2 critical damage instead of just 1 critical damage. And so, and that was just, I thought it was a good representation of kind of, hey, let's just speculate. Let's just have fun. What are some of your ideas? What are some of your ideas? My ideas? Chats, your ideas too. Let's get them out there and kind of just spitball and see what fun we can have. And so I thought it was appropriate to talk about what these new rules are, because we don't know yet.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of stuff's up in the air for it too, because what have they have some good changes. We really like the battle card changes. We're having 4 out. That's great. Yes. So
some of the things look really cool too. There's some things I didn't like. There are some things I didn't like. But not, I like the Dark Troopers. Those look really cool.
Yeah.
They're vehicles, but they're also troopers. They're heavies rather, but they're troopers. They're not vehicles. But but the thing I didn't like is Din Djarin's Amban rifle. It's 2 actions to roll and put a damage on anybody in line of sight, but it's not a ranged attack, and so it gets around all this weird stuff. You can shoot somebody who's engaged. You can shoot somebody who's in a heavy transport.
Oh, what? Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, you can shoot somebody who's in a melee because it doesn't say you make a ranged attack on them. You just have to be able to see somebody. So, like, and maybe that will be part of the rules changes. Maybe they'll kind of.
Yeah, you can engage melee, or you can shoot a melee.
They may just errata him a little bit,
Or maybe that could be an interesting thing where like you could target someone that's engaged.
Well, maybe that'll be a rule where you can shoot into melee, but whatever damage you do also hits your your friend too. Like you have to shoot. I have to shoot through you to get hit to him.
Yeah,
or vice versa.
Treat it like Clamor. Maybe like, hey, for every successful hit, you roll a white die on a block.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's all kinds of yeah, and like Tyler said, yes, and you can shoot somebody in a transport, in a full, like, you can always target somebody in an open transport, but in a closed transport, you can't. You're not able to be targeted at all. And so, but you do have, technically, according to the rules, you have line of sight on somebody. Even though you can't target them, you still have line of sight because they're in
just learning about this.
So it's like, for example, like I could issue an order to somebody who's in a closed transport if they're within range 3. I just check range to the transport. And so if I can see the transport, then I can see the person inside as far as range for things. And
that's
because
so
of the way
I don't like it.
Well, it is rules lawyer, and that's why a lot of people have said it should have been worded differently, because it goes right through that. It should have been you make a ranged attack, and maybe it has pierce 2. Maybe it has really good things to help it actually work. Unfortunately, they just said no, it's a magical effect that just does damage, and since it's magic, it gets so.
It's Mandalorian. What's the phrase? Anything high enough in scientific, anything that's high enough sci-fi is considered magic to lower beings.
Absolutely. So, but in this case, I mean, it is clearly a rifle, and we clearly see him shoot people. So I don't know why they just didn't use normal shooting rules for a shooting rifle. Like, I like the fact that it also works in melee. Like, that's cool. It's got special melee things. And we see that in the very first episode where he kind of electrifies the beast and does like he did in the old cartoon and with like Boba Fett.
Creepy steel thing,
yeah, that's a really cool thing about it. So like they've done a lot of good things that are really good, but there's also some things that they could fix. So, like if you had one wish list for this rule, if you had like one thing that that would go in, like if they said, hey, we're doing all this stuff, what would be one of your?
I think my biggest wish is that I kind of like, as I play clones as well, I kind of want to see them come back to
get their token sharing again.
Get the token sharing back. As much as I want a point increase to see bigger, cooler games,
yeah,
I think to make the game healthier, loans need to be, because you have a faction that this kind of its identity somewhat got stripped away.
Yeah,
because it was rough. I mean, I know.
I mean, good, I want to play clones because they look cool. You've got all these Jedi and stuff like that, but like I feel like to play Gar right now,
customized clone force.
I know, like, and to play Republic right now, like I kind of either have to run vehicles or I kind of have to really minimize. I have to just run like 3 naked clones just to get around that 3 core requirement. I mean, I wonder how the game would look. What if they just didn't have a 3 core requirements at all anymore? Like, what if they just said, you know what? There's no minimums.
No core tax. Okay.
Yeah. What if you just don't have to have that? I mean, a lot of games do have to have that, and I feel like
a lot of games also have more ways. Like Age of Sigmar has ways around, like the battle line system.
There's a lot of ways around that. Yeah.
Exactly. And they have ways. Yeah,
I feel like battle forces can sometimes get around that. Like the 501st, I think you only have to have 2 core. So there's some ways to get around it. I just don't think the 501st was enough.
Maybe they'll change force organization per faction. Like Republic gets this kind of force organization, Rebels get this one.
That's a possibility. That is definitely a possibility. I want to talk about what seems more likely, and some of the things that I think are very likely are a little bit less specific predictions. But I feel like one of the things that they're going to do that's more likely is overall as a whole. I think it's likely that they'll try to come up with a format that allows for more card packs.
Okay.
And granted, you can already do card packs, but here's one example I can think of that would allow for more card packs. And the reason I'm citing this is because they did this with X-Wing, right? Like the changes they made for X-Wing, and of course, kind of made these standardized loadouts a little bit more viable, and now they can just come up with new, like for example, they put mandatory scenarios into X-Wing. And so now if they want to create like a scenario card pack, all of a sudden, boom, that's a whole, like that could be 2 years worth of content for X-Wing with one card pack that they just put out. Or PDFs. Yeah. They could just do a PDF, new scenarios. Boom, now the whole tournament circuit has changed. And so I feel like they could do stuff like that with Legion. But one way to do something like that was, imagine if they changed the command card hand with the rules.
Oh, I was thinking about this earlier.
Okay, so you know how we build a command card hand of, we have a 4-pip for standing orders, and then we've got 2 1-pips, 2 2-pips, and 2 3-pips. What if they double that? Or at least you need to have at least that, but what if you can have up to double that? And the rules changes, in addition to your 1 command card, you can play a second command card. So after we each do, I'll lay mine down, you lay your card down, and then once we're done, then we go into the second part. I can lay an optional one down, and you can lay an optional one down. Maybe blue players goes first or whatever. So you can play up to 2 command cards on a given turn if you would like. And when you do that, all of a sudden now you open up a whole lot of card support, because that's going to really change the game. And then some command cards may need to be nerfed if that is the fact.
Yeah, that's a big thing that you're definitely going to find some that need to be nerfed because of that.
Yeah, like running Palpatine's 1-pip in conjunction with something else could be totally crazy, right? And there may be, but there's a lot of. I mean, you could always just say, all right, you can't run more than one of the same pip, or something like that. Like you could put disclaimers on it, or maybe you errata some of the cards to where this one is so powerful it can't. If you run this one, you can't run another one.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what? Let me temper that. I think actually one of the rules changes might be command card changes where they might increase by 1. I don't know if they're going to do the 2 command cards at once, because that requires a lot more internal balancing than I think they're willing to do.
It might be really fun though.
It could be fun.
It'd be really fun. I don't know.
Like there is so many possible broken combos.
Like, I don't know. I can't think of a single broken combo other than it'd just be strong. Strong doesn't always mean broken, right? I don't know.
I don't know if it's,
or maybe you can't run 2 from the same character, and maybe you can't run 2 of the same pip. You know.
Okay, that could be better.
I could see, because all right, if you did Palp, you could do Palp's 1-pip and his 3-pip or his 2-pip at the same time. This way, you'd know that you were going first. And you could guarantee that you went first, and you could also guarantee that that you'd kill like several units.
I think feasibility wise, I think they might increase, but I don't think they'll do it at a time. I think in terms of like feasibility, I think you're on the right track, but like I don't know if they'll do more than one. Like that takes a lot. Again, that's going to take play testing, and that's something they have a lot of resources for right now, especially with like, I mean, you remember our days, like, hey, we needed to assist, like. Oh man, we only got so many games, and is this the right thing? So
it definitely would take some play testing. That could be a big thing, and that could make things complicated. On the other hand, they may go the opposite direction and do things that make a game change that requires less testing. Because I think whatever happens, I think we'll see a version of Legion that, at least from their perspective, is easier to support. Like something that says like, hey, you know what, we can now just adjust this balance chart. Like maybe this season you can take you can, like, for 2023 you can take 3 1-pips in your list, and you're
going the Age of Sigmar route with the
exactly your yearly seasons, right? Where that now each year they just changed one, like they just turned the key. It's like, oh, okay, well now you can take 0 1-pip, or you can only take 1 1-pip in 2024, and all of a sudden the meta totally shifts around this. That would make a game easier to keep thriving and keep supporting, and maybe you come up with a card pack or something like that.
So I'm sorry, I'm going back to the command card thing, because I'm thinking
those two are related. Those 2 points. Yeah,
as much as that sounds good, I realize it would be it's too easy just to add all 3 generics just in case your command dies. And I think part of what kind of makes the command card system so cool is that there is a risk to it. If you lose your leader, you lose those command cards. And so, but if you have an upgraded hand, like
Yeah, if you
I
just
have all the
had
generic.
3 more command cards on top
You're
of
just gonna
everything
have
else.
you're just gonna have the 3 basics.
But I think if you're playing 2 command cards per turn, that adds that risk because I'm like, I'll have a backup, but if I lose my commander, I can't do one of the combos. I can't have a power turn. You know?
Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah. So
maybe
yeah.
It's definitely a double critical idea because I haven't fully play tested that idea and I haven't really thought about how could that really create a negative play experience for people. You know,
actually, I'd be willing to give that a shot sometime and see how it goes. This little brainstorm.
Well, we've done off the chain kind of stuff. Like we did the hero battle where it was.
Hero battle was okay. Hero battle was cool.
I love that.
And tier
800 points
were cool too. But
we should have changed it a little bit to not have be unique characters only because I think we had like a rebel officer or an imperial officer in there and they're not unique and there was just activation padding. But like 800 points of unique characters or unique units was really cool. I liked that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's gonna. I don't think they'll ever come up with that as a format though, because to me that feels like that's too much like what Shatterpoint looks like.
Yeah.
You know.
So again, thinking about more feasible things. What has something going on with what their strengths are? And I know that MCP does like big boss scenarios. I know you've toyed with this with your like, hey, let's make Emperor the big boss kind of thing. Like big bad.
Well, they said they wanted to do Vader down, and we've never heard anything about that.
Yeah,
I wonder if that's a really good point. Yeah, that maybe we'll finally see that come out.
Yeah, we got to go with like, hey, this is AMG now. We got what are their strengths, and their strengths are making individual, unique characters, which is it's tough to do in a game like Legion because one of the things I like about Legion, I like games like this, is that your troops kind of become the characters. They have like the Pathfinders have had so many cool stories to tell because they're just generic guys. And like, oh man, guy, it's Bistan and Pal, but like. It's still like hey, that rebel trooper did really cool. He survived 5 rounds of shooting. I want to paint him different.
She likes that one too.
Yeah, dogs like everything.
The
emerging gameplay can be really cool if you don't always focus on those special characters.
I'll say this: I feel like sometimes Legion is a little too much objective oriented, and while like.
Yeah.
Like we did the Armada thing. Well, that can definitely be a good thing, but this is just me. This is like a personal taste thing. I really like the deathmatch aspect to a war game. I like the war aspect to a war game, and I liked X-Wing's dogfighting. So I don't really like the new scenarios for X-Wing because they don't feel like X-Wing to me. Because X-Wing was always just like shoot and whoever kills everybody else wins. So when we look at some of the things they might do for Legion, part of me wonders if they're going to do like a little bit more objective-y stuff.
I could definitely see them doing not like we've got all the things whenever we got new objectives. It usually comes in a very little terrain pack, like the bombs and like the hostages and like the moisture evaporators. I could definitely Armada did it, which is kind of cool. Is when they came out with that when they came up with those extra scenarios. You don't require terrain. There's these are new.
Armada had like the best scenarios because with Armada, a lot of Armada's objectives weren't
very risky and rewarding.
Well, they also didn't. They weren't. The balance was like it was still a shooting game, and it was just like it didn't shift the balance of if it's like if you figure with no scenario you have 100% deathmatch. And sometimes like some of the MCP scenarios turn the game from 100% deathmatch to like only a 20% deathmatch. It's like 80% about the objective, and I don't like that balance. I want it to be like 70% deathmatch or something like that, and a little bit objective. You know what I'm saying? Toward the objective can basically steal like what would have been a close victory from your opponent, and it swings it your way. That's how much swing I want the objective to kind of have, I think, in my ideal way. And so I feel like they're going to, and I feel like Legion is probably about 60% objective. Or maybe 50, maybe 50% objective, 50% shooting for Legion.
So you like that? You like that little castle of the alpha shooters, right?
No, I don't exactly.
What happens when it's a deathmatch game and like, oh yeah, please come into my gun line. You're gonna get those Mexican standoffs basically. Like, who makes the first move?
Well, no, one of the reasons that a lot of like the fortressing happens in Legion is because they don't because they can just They don't have to put any units out there to actually shoot. I mean, they'll keep them safe.
Yeah.
But they don't. What's the word I'm looking for? I mean, like you threw me upside down here. No, not literally. I guess you can afford to play it really, really safe because you're just going to you've got your moisture evaporators. You just have to make sure initially it was like, oh, I'm blue player, so I'm just going to win the tie, so I'm just going to stay super, super safe. It's 4-4, it's 2-2 or 4-4, and then I'm going to break the tie. And I feel like if it was deathmatch, well, if I might run a sniper too. If I get that first kill, you then have to come after me or whatever. I think to do a deathmatch, you would probably have to do like a King of the Hill, and maybe that's all it takes is like some new objectives in the battle pack. Because what I liked about Armada's objectives is some of them changed the game. And they just influenced the deathmatch aspects, like advanced gunnery. It's like, hey, the objective is actually now my ship. You have to kill my ship. Skirmish in Legion has an objective that turns it into a deathmatch, so that it is an option at least in Skirmish. And I'd like to see more battle cards that vary the game a little bit more away from just securing an objective point and that reward shoot-heavy lists. So this way, because you go to a tournament, every list is probably going to be geared towards being able to take an objective. You're probably not going to find too many lists that are primarily there to kill stuff. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I might be slightly off with like how much of the shooting versus how much of it is tactical.
I got you. I think again we're talking like the feasible. I think a possible battle card set, or here's a PDF of new scenarios and new conditions. I think that is a big possibility. Here, duct tape them to your current ones or something like that.
All right, Cole said something I think is going to kind of be a good kind of way to wrap things up. He says the new rules will determine if Legion survives. First off, I understand that. I get a lot of people are nervous right now. They've seen Armada kind of not get any more real support. They've seen X-Wing change from, hey, we're getting lots of expansions to, no, you're only getting card packs and this rule system that people don't really like. And then they've seen Shatterpoint get announced. So a lot of people are thinking, is Legion on the chopping block right now? And it's important to remind you guys that Legion has at least another year's worth of content as far as like miniatures and stuff that are in the pipe right now. You've got Commander Cody and the two other guys that are coming out with him. You just have
Waxer and Boyle.
Waxer and Boyle. You've got Ahsoka coming out for Rebels. You've got Asajj Ventress coming out for the CIS. You've got Boba Fett, who is, I believe, shipping now. So I think he's.
I think I've seen some people with him. I don't know.
Oh, he was worldwide. He was all over the place. So yeah, a lot of people have already got Boba Fett. But if you're in the United States like me, you'll probably have access to him the next weekend.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's weird.
But it's weird how that thing works out.
Yeah,
But you also have Ewoks coming out next year.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they have Moff Gideon and Dark Troopers and which is supposed to be 2 more battle forces at least, that being the Ewoks being a rebel battle force and then the Imperial Remnant being an Imperial battle force. So and that's at least another year's worth of stuff. So this time next year, I can see people asking that question, like if Legion survives or something along that line.
So that's is a good thing to question. Will Legion have to? Is this going to be their breaking point? I don't think so either, because because those expansions come out, they're going to have time to change the rules again. Because hey, we introduced this new stuff. Now we have to think about this thing. They can change rules again. There's nothing saying how many times they can change it, because that happens. And Legion is a still profitable and a big. It takes a lot of tables at the tournaments. Like you get. They're getting spots at Adepticon, at Gen Con. It's hard to drop a marketable item.
I wonder
if it's one they never made.
I also wonder how much the new stuff that's either just come out or is coming out is impacted by these new rules. Like, will the new Boba Fett, because he has that flame thing that matches, it's the same thing as his command card, but he's got the flame thing that he can equip as an item. And so if he plays that command card, then he's got 2 flamethrowers that turn. So it's like, and I wonder how much stuff like that is impacted.
He's still limited to like just shooting once. Does he have Arsenal?
No, he has Arsenal too. The new Boba. The new Boba has Arsenal, so he could. Yeah, so
he could technically fire both. That's kind of.
He could fire both, which would be kind of, especially if you walked up against a separatist list. I'm gonna melt these B1s, and I'm gonna melt these B1s.
So I just gotta get like him like doing like both arms like spinning around and
So I don't know. I'm really curious how it is all gonna work out, and I guess we're gonna see, because there's gonna be a lot more stuff coming out next week. We're getting 2 updates next week, and then I guess 2 updates the week after that. And hopefully by the end of all that, we'll have a pretty good picture of what the rules are gonna look like. But the biggest test is gonna be once they actually drop, to see if there's any surprises in there. That's another one of my fears, is that they try to sneak a major change in and hope that we didn't notice or something like that. I feel like that kind of happened with X-Wing. Like they saved the biggest surprises till last, and that didn't go over too well.
I kind of wanted to. Like they're gonna drop like things, and it's gonna be like the points change, where it just might be well made. Like, oh, hey, Rebel troopers always start with a dodge now. Cool. Like it's like that.
I won't be surprised if they change the core limit like higher, and like maybe now you can run up to like 8 core in most lists, and maybe every faction or battle force goes up by like 2 more core, and they say 1,200 point battles now, and they want Legion to go more big army to further distinguish it from Shatterpoint. Like that could maybe be a thing that happens.
I know some of you talked before is that with them making Shatterpoint, they're going to have to differentiate the games, and this might be where we see the start of that. It's not, maybe this isn't where like we see if Legion survives. This is where we see Legion becomes a different thing than Shatterpoint is.
And I think the rules will tell us kind of their plans. If they do it to where like, hey, Legion looks like it's really going to be going in a different direction now, as far as more units, then that might be a good indication that they really do plan to keep developing new Legion expansions. Yeah. Versus if they kind of put it on, if they do a rules change that makes it feel like it's on life support, then maybe Legion will be going the way of X-Wing, where it's like, oh, well, we'll get a card pack, once every 6 months or once a year, I don't know. I think Legion is still, I mean, it's such a massive game, though. I can't imagine them kind of, like putting the cork in X-Wing. They've got lightning in a bottle here. I don't think they're gonna stop it.
When you actually get a decent competitor to GW, it's hard to not do that. I mean, MCP is cool. But like Legion has, I think it outperforms MCP as far as I know. In terms of sales.
I think Legion is. I mean, if you look at like some of the communities, the Legion community is a lot larger than MCP. I'd say it's about twice as big, but still, MCP Legion's been around a lot longer. So MCP being as big as it is, for as new as it is still really cool, and it's a different licenser, and I think they like. Kind of splitting things up, because what if, for example, let's just say Lucasfilm just said, you know what, no more. Well, they still have MCP. I don't know, but I don't want to speculate too much on the business side, because I really don't know that much.
It's boring. It is.
I don't run any companies, All right. Armada's not dead. But I know what you mean. Like, they're not making much new for it. I actually have a whole new Armada expansion coming out on Christmas. So yeah. It's not dead for me. I'm making new stuff. Yeah. All right. Well, all right, guys. That's going to do it for today. Sean, thank you for joining us for this wonderful evening. And we'll have to wait and see what happens next week.
Yep.
All right. Any closing thoughts? Any well wishes or words of wisdom?
I think... As with anything, stay positive, guys. It's going to be just look and see. That's all we can do.
What's your favorite flavor of Pop-Tart?
Oh, Wildberry, man.
Wildberry. That's right. That's right. Right there. Yeah. Boom. All right. I'll talk to you later. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are amazing and help make this channel possible. Thank you for your continued support. May the force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. So say we all.
Happy holidays!
And happy holidays. And Hakuna.